Well, folks, I hope you like frogs, because this week we're trying to beat up some frogs. More specifically, we're taking on the Curitiban Clefairy. And this was the team that everyone was afraid of coming out of the draft, and I don't think it's terribly hard to see why. Um, this is an incredibly strong rain team. I don't know why we let this guy draft all this stuff. But of course, Politoed sets up the rain with his drizzle ability. Then you have two Swift Swim users in Poliwrath and Ludicolo. One physical, one special. Same base speed, I believe. You have Kilowattrel with rain buffed Hurricane and potentially Thunder. Very fast Pokemon, able to set Tailwind for its teammates, and has three incredible abilities in Volt Absorb, which can be helpful to protect these water types. Competitive, which is good, of course, into anything dropping stats, and Wind Power, I think it's called, which gets a buff from its own Tailwind. I haven't even mentioned Archaludon, which is, of course, one of the top rain abusers in VGC right now, playing a very different, bulkier game, boosting its special attack with Electro Shot and potentially its defense with Stamina. Then you have a possible Trick Room mode with Bronzor and Clodsire. Then you have Hisuian Typhlosion, rounding out the Fire, Water, Grass core. So far, when they've brought it to games, it's just clicked Eruption, and of course it can do that next to Charge-a-Bug for that special attack boost. And then Clefable, I don't really know what it does, but it's an all-around utility Pokemon, I guess. And Salamence is a super strong threat into physical attackers, another option for Tailwind. It can set up an attack in its own right. It's just a whole team of threats, and I don't know why we let them do this, like I said. Add on top of that this is piloted by one of the best players in this league, and there's a reason that people were calling this team the title favorite right out of the gate, before anyone even played a set. And again, I've watched this guy's replays, and he's brought a lot of creative stuff to his sets as well. Things like Weakness Policy, Clodsire, and Trick Room, Blunder Policy, Blizzard, Politoed, which I think he's brought twice, in consecutive weeks, in fact. There's a good chance that there's going to be some heat here, and either way, there's definitely a solid player on the other side of this matchup. And with both of us at 5-1, tied for first place in the league right now, there's a very good chance that this is a preview of the final or a semifinal, which is something to think about, as this is the second last week of the regular season and we're heading to playoffs pretty soon. With all these layers on this team, it is very difficult to build something to try to counter it. Let me tell you, I had a lot of trouble with this one, and I thought that fully 10 of my Pokemon had pretty solid cases to be brought this week. The only one I dismissed right away was Gligar, and even Gligar has some useful tools in this matchup. But I had to narrow things down, had to make some difficult cuts and some difficult calcs, and I have now gotten it down to 6 Pokemon, and it starts with, who else? Thundurus. First thing you might notice, I have Wild Bolt Storm as the only attack here, and I've not brought Rain Dance. And I'm just going to flag now that, unlike last week, I don't have Rain Dance on a different Pokemon either. My team is built a little bit this week to play in my opponent's Rain, but it's not super reliant on that. And part of the reason is that this is a different kind of matchup from last week. Last week, my opponent had a Rain mode that they seemed to really like and had brought in most, if not all, of their sets before, but it wasn't necessarily central to their team's identity. This week, my opponent has a dedicated Rain team, and they do have the option not to bring Rain if they don't want to, but that comes at the cost of nerfing Politoed, Poliwrath, Ludicolo, Archaludon, Kilowattrel. That's a lot of potential power gone from their team if they don't bring Rain. So they probably will bring Rain, and if they don't, then I can still find some advantages there. So I've not brought my own Rain Dance this week. The other thing is, I wanted to really make sure I had room for Protect on some of my sets this week. So I have gotten away a lot of times with not running Protect on Thundurus, but the thing is, my opponent has Tailwind, which I don't have unless I bring Gligar, and I've already said I'm not doing that. And my opponent has not a super strong Trick Room mode, but a real Trick Room mode that has paid off for them in past weeks. I'm going to try to avoid getting into a position where I have to stall out my opponent's speed control. I don't want to have to do that, but there's certainly a lot of potential for it to happen, and so I've made sure to have Protect on a good number of my Pokemon this week. So we talked about the Wild Bolt Storm and the Protect. I guess the purpose of some of these other two moves is kind of implied already, but Eerie Impulse is here to prevent Archaludon or Ludicolo or even an offensive Politoed from running away with the game. It's also strong into Kilowattrel if that doesn't have competitive. And then Scary Face, because my opponent will probably bring Tailwind. Kilowattrel has been very strong for them in most of their weeks. And of course, I'm not bringing that. So it gives me a leg up in the speed control battle, at least in some situations. Again, competitive Kilowattrel is an issue, but fortunately, if they bring competitive, that means they don't have Volt Absorb. So I have a tool into Kilowattrel regardless. Terra Water is basically my favorite Terra type this week, as you'll soon see. My opponent has shown a tendency to throw off ice attacks into opposing flying and dragon types, like the Blunder Policy Blizzard Politoed that I talked about before, or Poliwrath could have an ice attack, or Ludicolo. So I wanted a Terra type that would get rid of the ice weakness, and of course water turns it into a resistance, while also adding a resistance to water attacks from the Politoed or the Poliwrath. It does come at a significant cost in that it makes Thundurus weak to electric attacks from Kilowattrel and Archaludon, or grass attacks from Ludicolo, so I'll have to be a little bit careful about how I use it, but I think it's very, very strong in enough situations that it's worth having here. From here, the rest of this set was actually extremely difficult to put together. It was the last thing I figured out, and I'm still second-guessing it now. I'm not that confident that the Citrus Berry is useful on this build, but I don't really have a better idea, unless maybe I want to run Bright Powder again. I genuinely will think about that. But otherwise, I have enough physical bulk to take, I think, any hit from Poliwrath except a Terra water attack. And then I went offensive because Wild Bolt Storm is very strong into, well, all their water types, as well as getting good neutral hits on Typhlosion and non-Volt Absorb Kilowattrel. I think that throwing off a Wild Bolt Storm could be useful this game, and there wasn't anything else in particular that I wanted to calc for defensively, unless I ran a full defensive set, and even then it didn't seem that useful. So I have gone with a weird mix of offense and defense. Maybe I should have committed to one or the other, but I'm trying to find the right balance here. And if it doesn't work out, that's at least good information for a possible playoff matchup. And then the little bit of speed is just to be faster than any kind of speed-invested Politoed. I don't think that's especially likely, but I figured I could spare the EVs. Up next, we have Iron Leaves. Again, running Terra Water. Similar theory, of course. Iron Leaves is already a water and electric resist before Terra, which is one of the reasons that I think it's important in this having this matchup. And I can play around the electric weakness from the Terra because I resist that if I don't Terra. And water gets rid of the flying weakness, which is potentially very important into Salamence Kilowattrel, and also turns the fire weakness into a resistance into against something like a Typhlosion mode. Plus, I'm a little wary of a Terra type like Fairy or Steel because that opens up weaknesses into Clodsire. And the more I thought about it, the more I actually felt like I had to seriously prepare for Trick Room Clodsire. Clodsire in Trick Room, that is, because my team isn't great into Trick Room. It is a little bit of a weakness, and I've seen that Clodsire sweep this season. Anyway, I have enough speed to outrun Modest Kilowattrel. The only other benchmarks on my opponent's team are Timid Kilowattrel, which nothing I have can outrun naturally, and they're Swift Swim users. So Modest Kilowattrel is kind of the reasonable, attainable goal for a lot of my faster Pokemon. Actually, no, I think this is not faster than Modest Kilowattrel. A couple of my Pokemon are. I think this is just faster than Salamence. So Kilowattrel is, if it has 252 speed EVs, it's always faster than my Iron Leaves. But, whoops. This always outruns Salamence. Nonetheless, it's fully attack invested apart from the nature, and the booster energy will boost attack. And then the rest of the set is not super interesting. I had a way more creative set in mind at the very early end of the building process, which I won't disclose because maybe I'll consider it again in playoffs. We'll see. But here, Leaf Blade just gets off a strong hit into the grass types. Psyblade threatens the Clodsire mainly, and also at least gets a neutral hit into the flying types, although Intimidate Salamence could be a problem. And Sacred Sword, of course, threatens Archaludon while bypassing any stamina boosts. And then Protect, as I said, I consider to be an important move generally this week. It's not a very inspiring set, but hopefully it can put in some work. Up next, I've already leaked that I'm bringing Sylveon. I've really liked in the last couple of weeks the offensive pressure from sticking Sylveon next to something like an Iron Leaves or another one of my physical attackers, like the next Pokemon coming up, and just clicking Hyper Voice. That bit of damage has been very effective in pushing some opponents' defensive plays over the edge and making it just impossible for them to hold up into this team. And I think to some extent, given that I can't really adequately prepare for every offensive threat that this opponent could throw at me because their team's just too good for that offensively, I think to some extent I need to try to overwhelm their team, and Sylveon is kind of a key piece for that kind of game plan for my team. You already know that Throat Spray is the only item. I swear I'm keeping an eye out for a time to bring a different item, but I love my Throat Spray Sylveon. Third consecutive Terra Water Pokemon. I don't feel great about that. I feel like stacking the same Terra type that much might be a mistake, especially when it does open weaknesses into 3 of their strongest Pokemon. And I considered running something like Terra Steel to deal with the weakness to a Steel attack from Archaludon or Poison Jab from Clodsire. But again, I don't really like that that opens up a ground weakness into Clodsire, or even like a weakness to Archaludon's Body Press. Water just kind of feels more solid in this matchup, and I can only Terra 1 Pokemon in a game anyway. There may be some opportunity cost to running Terra Water on 3 different Pokemon, but I just wasn't that convinced of something like Steel in the end. I actually also considered Ground Terra Blast or Fighting Terra Blast. I didn't like Ground because I'm not eager to open up water weaknesses into Poliwrath, Ludicolo, Politoed. And there was something else I didn't like about Fighting, or maybe it was the Flying weakness. But I was considering those options to threaten Archaludon mainly. Ground would also threaten Clodsire. But in the end, I didn't go that route, so I think Water is okay as a defensive Terra type. This is probably the least bulky Sylveon I've brought all season. I'm not actually checking, but I think the little bit of defense EVs covers, again, most of what Poliwrath or Clodsire can throw at us, at least with one hit. And then the extra. I'm looking forward to the extra damage from this much special attack investment. I don't think I've run this much yet this season. Hopefully it will annihilate something like Salamence or Chaludon with Hyper Voice. Psyshock is Sylveon's best way to threaten Clodsire. And then I was strongly considering a third attack. Like I said, I thought about Terra Blast with a couple of different types, but I wasn't really impressed. I also had Shadow Ball penciled in for a while. Shadow Ball can get a neutral hit onto something like a Terra Steel Clodsire, or it can threaten Typhlosion or Bronzor. So Shadow Ball would bring some real value here. But I like Yawn a lot as a kind of emergency button to slow down my opponent's game plan. My opponent is running a team that can overwhelm people very quickly. And again, I might get into a situation where I need to stall out a Tailwind or a Trick Room. Yawn gives me potentially some openings to try to do that. Up next, since I'm going up against Rain, I figured I should bring my fastest Rain abuser, Barraskewda. So Barraskewda is just here to benefit from Swift Swim and get off strong hits into anything. It's also naturally faster than any Pokemon on my opponent's team, except that I wanted an Adamant nature because I want to maximize damage output. Given that I don't have a Life Orb this time, I have a Clear Amulet to cover for Intimidate Salamence. So I didn't try to outrun Timid Kilowattrel. I believe this is the first Pokemon that does outrun Modest Kilowattrel, but Timid Kilowattrel is the only benchmark that I miss. I also don't have to worry about the Swift Swim Pokemon because this is a faster Swift Swim Pokemon, although it doesn't have a great way to hit them. I had 4 attacks on Barraskewda for a while in the builder. I had these 3 that you see here, Liquidation, Drill Run, and Ice Fang, and then Terra Electric, Terra Blast to threaten Politoed, Poliwrath, and eventually I realized basically just those 2 Pokemon. But like I said, I really wanted to fit in Protect somewhere, especially since Barraskewda is so vulnerable in Trick Room. I figured I could probably drop the electric coverage. Liquidation is going to go crazy anyway, and I can get a neutral hit into a water type with Drill Run. Ice Fang is, of course, strong into Kilowattrel and especially Salamence, and it gives me a neutral hit into Ludicolo, though not a great one. Drill Run also threatens the Archaludon and the Clodsire. Notably, it has a boosted critical hit rate to hopefully bypass stamina boosts on the Clodsire. And then Terra Ground kind of breaks that guideline that I said about not opening up water weaknesses, but Barraskewda isn't really a Pokemon built to take hits. Keep doing that. Barraskewda isn't really a Pokemon built to take hits anyway, and with Terra Ground, I can survive by immunity 1 Thunderbolt from Kilowattrel or Thunder, or Electroshot from Archaludon. And especially if I'm facing Archaludon, potentially get off a stronger, a second shot at a Drill Run crit. But I just realized in Rain, Liquidation is going to threaten Kilowattrel more than Ice Fang anyway. But Ice Fang is still here for Salamence, and to a much lesser extent, Ludicolo. These were the 4 Pokemon that I picked fairly easily. The last 2 were kind of difficult, but I've already leaked what one of them is, and it is Choice Specs Mismagius. This is here for a couple of reasons. The main one is that before Terra, my opponent doesn't have a Ghost Resist. None at all. Ghost continues to be an amazing offensive type. This is not the best abuser of it, but I do try to look for opportunities to take advantage of that where I can. The other thing is that Trick with the choice specs can potentially ruin something like Bronzor, Clodsire, maybe even Charge-a-Bug. It might even make like Salamence or Poliwrath's day less pleasant depending on how I use it. That said, this Pokemon's option number 1 is just click Shadow Ball. I have the Terra Ghost, so I can click a stronger Shadow Ball. This outspeeds anything except Kilowattrel again, and I did make sure that I don't have Speed Ties on my team. I believe Mismagius is faster than Iron Leaves, but I'll check before the set. But yeah, Shadow Ball's to go to attack. Dazzling Gleam covers for a possible Terra Dark. And then I thought about a non-damaging move like Charm or Perish Song, but I don't love the idea of locking myself into Charm when my opponent has very strong special attackers as well. And I don't think this is the kind of matchup where Perish Song is likely to be very effective. So I thought Icy Wind to give me another out into a fast, maybe Tailwind mode for my opponent was the way to go. And finally, like I said, almost every Pokemon on my team had some kind of case to be brought, so I think for once I'll talk about what I didn't bring. Slowpoke is useful into a Trick Room mode, but the Trick Room mode is only so likely. It's not an amazing one on my opponent's team, and Slowpoke doesn't really have the power to do much else. Iron Treads I actually liked to round out my team's defensive synergy and make it more solid into Kilowattrel, Salamence, Archaludon, and to an extent Clodsire. But again, I'm very wary of water weaknesses this week, and I don't like the idea of Iron Treads being easily put in a position where it's basically forced to Terra, which I think could very easily happen. Magmar has the same issue, even though Follow Me is potentially very strong here, and of course it can't clear Smog into Archaludon. And then, what Pokemon am I forgetting? Oh yeah, Beartick. Beartick is very interesting offensively into my opponent's team with something like the Terra Electric set that I brought a couple weeks ago. The problem is, number 1, it doesn't do anything into Trick Room, and number 2, it's slower than my opponent's Swift Swim users, so it doesn't really work as a Swift Swim countermeasure in the way that Barraskewda kind of can. That leaves Persian, and this set is designed in significant part to help me with, again, a possible Trick Room matchup. I think if I see Ludicolo and Bronzor, I lead Persian Mismagius, and I have the Terra Ghost on Persian so that they can't fake out either of my Pokemon. I try to get a Taunt off into Bronzor. Maybe a Shadow Ball. If it's Bronzor without Ludicolo, then I think I lead Mismagius, Sylveon, Shadow Ball, and Hyper Voice to cover for a Terra Dark Bronzor. There are a number of things that my opponent can do to try to make sure that I can't prevent Trick Room, but I have enough tools that I think closed team sheets might get me game 1 or game 2, but by game 3, hopefully I should know how to shut their Trick Room down if that's something that they're going for. Icy Wind, again, is potentially useful speed control into a fast Kilowattrel mode. Taunt, as I mentioned, is mostly to stop Bronzor from cheesing me with Trick Room or anything else, and then Knockoff, because I think getting rid of items on something like like an Assault Vest or Chaludon or Eviolite Bronzor, or I don't know what the Clefable will do, but there may be a situation where I want to get rid of its item. I think it's a little more useful than something like Foul Play here. And then I have the Technician, boosting Fake Out and Icy Wind, and again, attack investment for the Fake Out, little bit that I could spare for the Icy Wind. And this is faster than Modest Kilowattrel, and again, offset by 1 point from Barraskewda. I don't remember which one is faster, but I will definitely check before the set. So that's the team. I think this is the longest team builder section I've done yet, but it's a really difficult matchup, and I had to put a lot of thought into this one. And we are the top 2 teams in the league right now, so there are some serious playoff seeding implications in this late season set right here. It's going to be an interesting one. Hopefully it's going to go well for us. If not, hopefully we'll gather useful information heading into the playoffs. But no matter what happens, you'll be able to see it right here in just a moment right now. Here we go. I'm kind of nervous. All right, so Clodsire, Poliwrath, Politoed, Archaludon, Bronzor, Typhlosion. What did I say? A full team of frogs. They do have the rain, of course. The Trick Room is a maybe. Can I share the link in the Discord with those who want to watch? Suppose I can do that. Is there anything weird you have to do for a best of 3? 1 second, actually. Okay, right. Back to figuring out a game plan. So, I said, that if I saw the possible Trick Room mode, I would probably lead Sylveon, Mismagius, unless I saw the Ludicolo, and then I would probably lead Persian Mismagius. I don't mind Sylveon Mismagius here. The Typhlosion can make my day a little unpleasant. It's Terra Water Sylveon, right? Okay, so that's a tool into the Typhlosion. If they lead Poliwrath, I could bring Iron Leaves in on that, except it's probably got dark coverage. Let's suppose we're doing Sylveon Mismagius lead. I think I do like Iron Leaves here. And then the Typhlosion is potentially an issue. Okay, our spectator just joined, so I guess my link did work. Thunder, don't love Thundurus here. It's not too bad. Barrascuda. We'll try Barrascuda. Sylveon, Mismagius, Iron Leaves, Barrascuda. Maybe it's a little disjointed, but we'll see what happens. Alright, so they lead Frogs into Sylveon, Mismagius. So Mismagius is pretty vulnerable here. Sylveon, not as much, though they might have some tech for it. Wouldn't surprise me. However, I think I am just going to throw off a Hyper Voice and switch to Iron Leaves. That might be playing into whatever they've cooked up, but let's see. As Liquidation just one-shots my Sylveon. Okay, so I guess I needed to Terra Water there. Good to know. It is Life Orb Politoed. Okay, not gonna lie, Game 1 is looking pretty doomed already. Oh boy, okay. Life Orb. I think I go for the Terra Water Iron Leaves, in case they throw off an Ice attack. I feel like Liquidation is probably the strongest hit I have into something. Kinda wish I had that Electric Terra Blast right now, huh? I'll just Liquidation the Poliwrath. It might try to Terra. And I'll go for a Leaf Blade into the Poliwrath. Terra Grass Politoed. We're probably going to get rid of my Barrascuda here. No, okay. Both of my guys survived the turn. The Terra Water does pay off. So they go for the Clodsire now. They've used their Terra. Do I care more about attacking the Politoed or the Clodsire? I think I want to double into the Clodsire. I think I'm just going to Drill Run and Psyblade as they switch out to our Archaludon. So they kind of boomed me there. Although the Drill Run does a lot of damage. For sure. Do they knock out Iron Leaves this turn? They do not. They get rid of Barrascuda, but I think the Iron Leaves is more important to pick up the KO. The Sacred Sword. I can go back to Mismagius here. The thing is, they can protect the Archaludon. I'm trying to think about whether I want to protect Iron Leaves here. I don't think there's value in it. I think I just need to keep up the pressure. I think I Shadow Ball Politoed and Sacred Sword Archaludon. Somebody's probably getting KO'd this turn. It might be Archaludon, it might be Iron Leaves, it might be both. But then hopefully Mismagius can close the game out. Big Shadow Ball. Big Sacred Sword KOs the Archaludon. What does the Politoed do? Oh, we're living. And I think we just won game 1. That was... Oh, I forgot about the Clodsire. The Clodsire is still there. I forgot about that. Okay. We might not have won game 1. Because I think I have to finish the Politoed off here. So what could I have done differently there? I guess I did need to protect Iron Leaves to preserve it for the Clodsire. Maybe there's some kind of super crit that can win this. Wouldn't bet on it. But yeah, I guess I did need to, yeah, I mean... Shadow Ball is not even a 2-hit KO. Maybe if I crit here. Yeah, crit would have won it, but... Oh, but they go for another curse. What are they doing? Do I win now? What just happened? Alright. Bit of a messy game 1 all around. 44, 45. I went for the extra curse. Do they not... Do they only have a ground attack? Is that what it is? I don't know. Well, I'm sure I'll find out after. Alright. We won game 1. That's a bit of pressure off. I don't know what adjustment they might make. I kind of want to lead Thunderous Iron Leaves, because I think that's more solid into the Double Frog lead. But I don't know if they'll go for Double Frog again after they just lost game 1. Alternatively, I could do like Thunderous Persian. That might be a little more solid across the board. Persian... What do I do then about the Typhlosion? If it's that. Can't fake it out. Can fake out the Poliwrath. Go for like a Wild Bolt Storm, maybe Terra Water. Thunderous Iron Leaves or Thunderous Persian. The thing is, Thunderous is a non-threat into Clodsire and pretty much into Archaludon as well. While Iron Leaves is able to threaten those some. But we've established that I can't safely switch anything in if Poliwrath gets going. But I might be able to prevent it from getting going. I'm going to lead Thunderous Iron Leaves. And I'm going to bring... I think I probably Terra one of these guys, which makes Sylveon a pretty shaky proposition, as we saw. So I think I bring Barraskewda and Mismagius in the back. Go for an offense mode. Okay, so worst possible lead pairing for Thunderous. However what? I can at least Eerie Impulse the Archaludon. And depending on the set, did I learn anything about the set last game? No, I didn't. Potentially I can make it a non-threat. Maybe. So I'm going to do that. And then I think I just go right for the Terra Water and Side Blade into the Clodsire. They could have a funny Terra type, but I don't know if it's mono ground attack. The thing is, if it's mono ground attack, then Terra Water actually hurts me here. You know what? I'm not gonna Terra this turn. I'm gonna scout what they do, but I'm gonna Side Blade into the Clodsire. Oh, you just one-shot it. Okay. That works. Night Slash on the Archaludon, so that Eerie Impulse is probably not helping me very much. I didn't know Archaludon got Night Slash. Here's the Bronzor. They might go for Trick Room. Of course, I don't have Taunt on my Thunderous, fortunately. I can survive a Night Slash if I Terra Water here, but I'm not sure what I do back to the Archaludon. I think I just... I can try to switch Mismagius in, but if they get up a Trick Room, then it's very vulnerable into the Archaludon. I think I'm going to throw off a Wild Bolt Storm and fish for a Para, because even if they go for Trick Room, then at least there's the full paralysis chance. Do I use my Terra here? I think I do. I think if they go for Trick Room, then having Iron Leaves still available makes it buys me a little more time to stall things out. Or if they don't go for Trick Room, then I might just get off a second Sacred Sword into the Archaludon. So I will Terra here. Sacred Sword does a lot of damage. Wild Bolt Storm. It's a bit of chip. We take the Night Slash, and there's the Trick Room. Okay. Here's the thing, though. The Archaludon is chipped down so much now that, like, it only takes one more Wild Bolt Storm. So I'm going to throw off another one, and I'm going to protect Iron Leaves. I might be able to finish it off without even needing another Sacred Sword or, what's it called? Shadow Ball. It is a little unfortunate that I have two very fast and frail Pokemon in the back at this point. Night Slash Archaludon, wow. Gravity. Well, that's going to help me land the Wild Bolt Storm, so that's cool. What are they cooking? Dragon Claw, Gravity. Oh, it's Gravity Hypnosis. They're cooking Gravity Hypnosis. I don't have anything to stop that. Right? They'll just get the Hypnosis into my Thundurus. It's a reasonably bulky Thundurus. It's not one of the bulkiest sets I've brought this season, but it might be able to wake up if they do go for the Hypnosis into Thundurus. I feel like I have to fish for the double Protect on Iron Leaves, because they're just going to knock it out. And I want to stall as many Trick Room turns as I can. Obviously, it's not a great odds play, but I think I have to do that. And they're probably not going to let me... Actually, maybe I should double Protect here, because I think they're going to go for Hypnosis into the Thundurus. Probably don't want to let them do that immediately. Although, gives me a little more initiative on sleep turns, try to wake up promptly. Okay, I'm going to Wild Bolt Storm and fish for the double Protect. I do get the double Protect. Live a Body Press, and there's the mandatory sleep turn. Hopefully you'll have some more fortune and wake up here. I think triple Protect is... I mean, there's a chance, but I don't think it's worth trying to go for. Maybe they'll change their game plan for some reason that I don't understand. And if not, I can stall out the last turn of Trick Room with somebody else, with Barraskewda. But we do get the Wake here, and we knock out the Archaludon. Been a pretty lucky game so far, I'm not going to lie. There's the Typhlosion. I can Eerie Impulse that. Yeah, I think I should. Go for Eerie Impulse into the Typhlosion. And if they let Iron Leaves live, then it can pick up the Bronzor here. Actually, it's slower than the Typhlosion. The Eruption doesn't knock anything out after the Eerie Impulse. Very nice. Go for a Wild Bolt Storm, but this is my mandatory sleep turn, so I won't actually get it. The Typhlosion will go before Iron Leaves, so they do knock us out here, and I think we just let the Iron Leaves go down and try to win with our Pokemon in the back. But I'll click Sacred Sword into the Bronzor anyway. Thundurus will stay asleep. And go down to Ice Spinner. But now they don't have Trick Room, and I have these two threats. And I will simply... Does it matter which Pokemon does what here? I don't know that it does. Liquidation into Bronzor, Shadow Ball into Typhlosion. Both take the Eruption. GG's to my opponent. I definitely had some luck in Game 2, and I don't really understand what happened in the endgame in Game 1. I thought I had lost that one. We'll probably talk about it in the Discord after, but that's it, folks. Your Halifax Masquerade Men are in sole possession of first place, and if there's a bye week in the playoffs, we're in a very good position to earn a bye, though I don't know whether it's clinched yet. But in any case, 1 week left in the regular season, and it's going to be another strong opponent, so here's looking forward to that. See you then.